There's something that's so weirdly appealing about the idea of leaks within the gaming industry. The fact that we could actually learn about something before we're technically supposed to. We can see games before they're launched, or hear news before it's technically released. And in this case, unfortunately, we got some leaks that are so bad that I wish they were fake, but unfortunately, it seems like they're true. What's up, gamers? DreamcastGuy here, and it sounds like a lot of the people that were working on Dragon Age 4 have suddenly decided to talk to the press in secret capacities, and what they're saying is so freaking awful that, quite frankly, I'm actually a little bit sad by it. So obviously, Electronic Arts is currently trying to salvage their reputation after the very rocky releases of both, well, Mass Effect 4 and, of course, Anthem. A lot of times now people are sort of looking at them and going, hey, now is the time where you have to prove yourself. And unfortunately, the only thing they have left in the canon is, of course, Dragon Age. This is one of their most famous series with some of their most famous people working on it. The directors, the developers, the artists are so jam-packed with pure talent, this series seems to manage to deliver when nobody else can. Well, here's the issue. Today we actually learned about the fact that apparently Dragon Age 4 was very, very heavily into development and got cancelled. The original version is now scrapped and they're working on a new game which is basically going to be, and this is a real quote, Anthem with dragons. Now just take a moment to really let that sink in. Anthem is a game that is glitchy, it's based on microtransactions, it is very, very heavily centered on a games as a service theory, and unfortunately, according to these leaks, that is 100% what they're focusing on with Dragon Age 4. So it sounds like the main idea behind it is to still have a centered story that you can, if you want, play by yourself. From start to finish, you'll actually be able to beat the game solo should you choose to do so, but you're going to be heavily incentivized to participate in the drop-in multiplayer. So basically, whenever you want, you'll probably just be able to click a button and instantly open yourself up to random players or friends joining you in your adventure. But here's the main thing. According to these leaks, the biggest thing about Dragon Age 4 is the fact that they want to constantly have this be a games as a service experiment. There will always be updates, there will always be patches, there will always be new content, a lot of which you will very likely be paying for. This is one of those games where they do not want you paying $60 to get the full experience. They want to tease it out. They want to drag this into a really long journey, and personally, that very much frustrates me because the original version of this sounds so freaking good. So it sounds like the big thing that's going on here is the fact that they've actually had to restart after the initial version was basically just canned by EA because they didn't like it. It was going to be very, very heavily centered on a single-player adventure. The original version was basically having us be secret agents in a kingdom that's being taken over, and so we're trying to basically work together to try and dominate this situation. And honestly, the lore of it sounds great. I mean, the idea of this wizard-ruled land and trying to basically overthrow the government or something? I mean, that sounds spectacular, especially because it was being worked on by Mike Laidlaw. This guy made Jade Empire. He directed the previous Dragon Age games. If anything, this dude is the literal master of the franchise. The fact that he left the project is a big sign that something very bad is going on. So that's the really important key to all this that I think we really need to talk about, which is the fact that everybody that was working on this actually got shifted over to working on Anthem, and now that Anthem's done, a lot of these people were supposed to shift back. But instead, when these people were told, all right, go work on Anthem, everybody just quit. A bunch of these people, it doesn't say whether they were fired or restructured or laid off or if they quit, but it sounds to me like they just decided to flat out hand in their resignation rather than be shifted off the project that they'd already put so much passion into. And honestly, I don't really blame them. I mean, this whole situation is a freaking catastrophe, but thankfully, I have my own inside source about why the heck that this is happening specifically. It seems like the rise of loot crates, microtransactions, and games as a service projects seems so bewildering, but thankfully I actually have this buddy by the name of Doug Money who is very high up over at Electronic Arts, and he said that he would actually let me tap into his webcam to see what's really going on. So let me just do this here. I'm going to hack into it. So basically what we're going to do is I'm going to hack into his webcam, and this should bring up their board meeting. Here we go. Alright everybody, my name is Doug Money, and today we're going to be having our special board meeting here in my bedroom because, let's face it, I'm Doug Money. I'm so rich I can get away with anything. Today we're going to be talking about Dragon Age and, of course, microtransactions, because that's what we need to crank into this. All that matters is the cash. Now, I know a lot of you developers have some problems with this, but I don't want to hear any backtalk, because here at Electronic Arts, we just want to make sure we are maximizing every single penny we can possibly achieve. Look, here's a big brain idea. We need to make sure that every single fan is paying for their fun. Let's face it, these people are dumb as hell. If they're actually still supporting our art, it's because they realize that we're just so corrupt and they're willing to do it. Let me break this down to very, very simple terms that any of us can understand. I want this game to be so full of microtransactions that if you take a poop in this game, I want you to be paying for the toilet paper, okay? I want to make this game so corrupt and so wicked that at any point, logging in costs you cash. Wait a minute. Alright, Daniel, write that idea down. That's a good one. Logging in costs cash. That's good. Dragon Age, just make it like 25 cents. They'll do it. I mean, what are they going to do? Leave their consoles on until they break? I love being Doug Money. What a freaking scummy dude. I mean, are you really going to freaking make the analogy of charging me for toilet paper? Come on, bro. Come on. I'm going to wipe your ass. So anyways, what I'm saying here is the fact that Electronic Arts is very clearly trying to over-monetize all their content. I think the big thing we need to realize here is that a lot of these major studios and major developers are no longer pleased with the idea of pay to participate. They no longer just want to have a thing where you actually just buy the game, you play the game, you trade the game in. That no longer works. Instead, they're more addicted to the idea of a game that you log into again and again. You participate in over the course of months or sometimes even years. This is, if actually utilized properly, a massively, well, profitable experiment. It's something that we've seen make some people billions of dollars if they do it right. I mean, I hate to bring up certain games, but let's face it, Apex Legends, I actually think that's part of the reason that Apex Legends right now is so crazy successful is because it's fast, it's really, really exciting, it's well balanced, but part of this is the fact that it is a game that is so clear of this extra BS. It's just fun for the sake of fun. There's no microtransactions other than a couple little cosmetic things. They don't try and lock out any of the major content. You're not actually paying for guns. You're not actually having to spend money to get special mounts. I mean, the game is so straightforward that at this point, I think that millions of people are thinking of it as a breath of fresh air. It's so weird that in 2019, a game that is fair to freaking fans is something that seems like such a crazy long shot, but that's what's really going on here. At the end of the day, what we need to really try and keep focused, at least in the back of our minds, is the fact that these studios, these publishers, these developers are very, very much still being controlled by investors. And I actually believe about the fact that a lot of times, even they do not want these features. I mean, I'll actually say that since these people were so open to leaking these crazy details about the earlier version of Dragon Age 4, clearly the people sitting at their desks trying to make the best game they can, they're not the ones pushing this live service BS. It is the people with the millions of dollars that are funding these projects that are trying to basically extrapolate all these extra funds from it. I guarantee you that there's dudes sitting around with cigars in a boardroom being like, okay, so this is actually going to make us $10 million, but if we make it where it's going to have 16 separate patches on the road to a season pass, we can make $45 million day one. This stuff is becoming such a dire situation, and honestly, I think it's going to keep just creeping into every single game possible, because at this point, it is becoming something that everybody's looking at. It has entered the mainstream consciousness, and I actually think that a big part of this is because of Fortnite. This little project, the idea of a battle royale that's free to start and easy to play, is actually infecting everything around it. That sounds random and unrelated, but it is something that I feel like is the most mainstream right now, and it's the thing that's getting all all the headlines, all the clicks, all the talk. People are seeing all the millionaire streamers and really big people just digging into this, and I think that everybody is trying to get into this. I mean, if I could just throw out a random conspiracy theory, I do believe that if we do end up seeing something like Half-Life 3 or Left 4 Dead 3 in the coming years, I actually think that they will be live games as a service projects. Things that Valve could actually get you to install Steam and play in a way that will perpetually get you to log in again and again. Games that you can't just beat. Games that may have ending credits but don't really have an ending experience. They're not things that you can just stop except when you're bored or just flat out broke. And honestly, I don't like this. I like the ideas of just buying a game, beating a game, loving a game, buying the next game. It is a cycle that works. This should not be a battle for microtransactions, for swipes of your credit card, for something like this. It seems like games are starting to lose their flair for the fun. Try and make an experience that's great all on its own. I feel like there was a time where I actually took a short class about cell phone game development, and the guy who did it, I think, was one of the people who originally programmed some of the physics for Angry Birds, and he said something that really sticks with me today. He said, if you make a game fun, get people to test it. While you're internally working on it, give it to people randomly and say, hey, play this level. Hey, try this part. And when they are afraid to stop, when you make a game that is so fun, you have to rip the controller out of their hands, that's when it's ready to sell. You want a game that is great in 5 minutes, 5 hours, and 5 days. And at this point, these games are just trying to be buyable for 5 minutes, 5 hours, and 5 months. And I don't like that. But what are your thoughts? Do you think that this stuff might actually turn out good, or does Dragon Age 4 sound like a complete dumpster fire? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all and keep dreaming. By the way, speaking of dumpster fire, I have a dumpster fire t-shirt now. It's linked down below. I'm actually trying to design a bunch of shirts right now because you guys have requested it. So if you want a dumpster fire t-shirt, well, now you can get one. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.